So hello, today we are at the Odyssey 2023 event in Kent, which is a military reenactment and living history event. Now we are promised some decent weather today with a little bit of breeze, so I hope you can hear me okay. I've changed the mic today. There should be plenty of sunshine and little showers. So we're going to have some interviews as we go through the day.
Regular hits, so that means everyone's on 2 hits, unless you're in mail and a helmet and a warrior. You warrior, Danny? There you are, a 3-hit man. Do it.
Keep the battlefield safe, I'm keeping the edge here. Give them room to play. Good, Tom.
Hold your line.
Hold! Pull back! Run forwards or give up.
So this gentleman's going to tell me what he's doing.
So yeah, so here we are currently milling down some of our grain to usable flour. This would have started off with some of this, beating it out, laid it down so we can pull out, extract. Over here, so we've got the grain we have in here. And that we then put into the middle of our millstone here, and the handle, crank it round, and you can see here we will on the front, but they are, some of the grains are just pop out from the front, and over time it's ground down into what we have here, which is the flour we have.
Are you a miller?
Not by trade, no. Something I've picked up just through this event today.
Oh, okay. So would you be a miller in this time period?
This time period, likely, yeah. Job would have been to mill grain, then you either use some of it for yourself and then sell it on to others to make bread with.
Okay. Tell me about that flag. Do you know much about it?
Ours.
It's not.
We're just displaying it because it's nice.
Okay, it's a nice colour.
Horse. It's a weird tongue for horse. It's Toby.
Pattern, the one I'm doing, because I just turn all the tablets forwards or I turn them all backwards.
So when you say tablets, you're talking these plates?
Yeah, these little wooden tablets, yeah, with the holes in them. Yeah. So I've got two end ones that have got all of the same colour, and all of the tablets in the middle have got two red, two yellow in them. And then depending on how you set them up when you start, it will produce a different pattern when you turn them.
So if I look at the pattern...
Yeah. Forwards, I get arrows going that direction, and when I turn them backwards, I get arrows going that direction.
Oh, okay.
And you can use that to create these little bits in the middle, or you can get crosses like this.
So would you be a weaver in the Viking period?
I would be either a weaver, or this is something that the women just used to do in the evenings when their husbands are away. Yeah, you could sell these. It's quite affordable for the Viking warrior who couldn't afford a lovely bright blue tunic or a nice bright red tunic. They could still afford a little bit of colourful tablet weaving to go on their hems, go on their cuffs or their collars.
Work together! Keep the next safe and alive! Communicate with our next view! Give it a push! Step back! Take your time! Yeah, you couldn't get anywhere.
Now we're with the Saxons.
How do they know how this game is played? There's like written evidence.
You might have won. When I moved that piece there, I shouldn't have done something different.
So it is definitely.
But if the white knows what they're doing, they can stop the brown quite well.
It's quite complicated, isn't it?
So now we are with a 9th century Viking trader. Okay, yeah, so what would you be trading in?
I've got some furs. I've got fox, weasels.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that? You got
A weasel.
oh, okay.
This is weasels.
Yeah.
This is a beaver.
Yeah.
And this is sable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Always, obviously, only rich people gonna buy them because they're expensive, and we're gonna use them for lining them clothes inside to keep them warm, or just for trimmings, like trims around the hat or trims around the coat. You know.
And how far would you trade? What sort of countries?
I will trade like now in Hedeby.
Which is in Denmark?
It's in Denmark, yeah. Obviously more than Germany. Yeah.
So yes.
50p is
And
only 2
also, I'm a bone worker. I'm working with bones.
Oh, okay. Multi-skilled.
You need to make money. Yeah.
So while you're waiting to sell your products, you could be working with a
I
bone.
can be working for bones. To do dice, to play games.
Well, it's like £5. No, £1.25.
That's a belt buckle?
Belt buckle, yeah.
What animal bone would that be?
This will be cow.
Oh, cow.
It's a cow bone, yeah.
So it's quite common back then.
Yes, cows, yeah. Obviously in these times, we eat everything. I mean, we use everything. When we kill an animal, it's everything been used bone.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah.
So nothing would go to waste.
Nothing will go to waste.
So it's the ultimate recycling.
Yes, exactly. It's all basically like you see. It will be buckles, bone. It's all made from bone.
So this would be
Antler.
Antler.
Yes, it's deer antler. It's really strong material.
Yeah.
Yeah. This plate,
So, you know what's cheaper?
Tiff,
So one donut
it's
is
made from this.
£1.50.
Oh, okay.
Basically, you cut it and you shaping it, until so thin.
Okay.
And this bit, it's made from these pieces. Obviously, big antlers, bigger comp you make it. On side curves.
So this is a carpenter's axe.
Yes, planking, to making the planks.
Planks for shipping.
Plank, yeah. You see?
Oh wow, that
it's
is
only,
sharp.
Yes, it's only, if you see, it's only one side.
Yeah.
It's sharpened. Also, when you platen it, it's you go in this way.
And the other axes are
Oh, I
back to
say it's all woodworking tools.
that? Oh, sorry, it's all woodwork.
Yeah, I mean, very sharp ones and blunt ones. It's a battle axe.
Okay.
This is a battle axe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
this
it's
is.
yes, it's quite small, isn't it?
Yes. You've got different sizes. You've got different shapes. Obviously, we've been obviously progressing, changing it all the time because it's the same like now. It's a weapon.
Yeah.
If you don't progress, you're not gonna win the battles.
Exactly.
Obviously, we're always progressing and making a bigger, different shape to make more damage to
So
enemy.
you would have been a Baltic Viking.
Probably, yeah.
So this gentleman is a reenactor from World War II, and he's going to tell us about his period that he's covering. So, okay, yes.
Hello there, my name's Mark. I'm portraying Captain Colin Mould, Beachmaster on D-Day. Try to portray the actor more of Kenneth Moore, so some of the parts will be sort of ad-lib.
So you're actually Royal Navy, aren't you?
Royal Navy,
Can you
yeah.
just turn your... Yeah. And you've got your fantastic dog.
I've got my fantastic dog, this is Wilson.
Wilson?
Yeah. We've been doing living history displays and reenacting for about 30 years.
Not Wilson?
Not with Wilson, no. But we got him about 2 years ago, and we were sitting watching The Longest Day, and I thought, you know what, it's something a bit different. I can use him as a prop.
Brilliant.
So that's what we did, and he loves it, thoroughly enjoys it.
So Wilson likes all the attention, doesn't he?
Yeah, he likes all the attention. He's not scared of all the bangs. It's just something a bit different to do. Never.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, sorry. It takes us ages to get round here. We never home.
He's lovely.
Lovely dog is Wilson.
I like it. He's lovely. You're supposed to be talking about this young man. Oh, you're lovely too.
So what period are you representing?
It's the Napoleonic 1790 to 1850, and we're the Cameron, the 79th Cameron Hylanders.
Would originally been on raising in 1793, predominantly Highlanders, but like the British Army today, as they moved south and they suffered casualties or diseases and whatnot, they recruited from anywhere. So they took the bounty to join.
So you could have English people.
Oh yeah,
Is
yes.
this Highlands?
Yes.
Highlands, okay.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about your uniform?
Well, the uniform dates from about 1812, and this uniform is a pioneer, what they call a pioneer's uniform. That means that they were like an early form of labourers, engineers, and they recruited and men that maybe had a trade, a profession, or some civilian trade that the army could use. So they would build breastworks, they would build roads, all kinds of ironwork, any manual jobs. And hence the kit is all standard to the British Army. You had the 60 round cartridge box, which is this thing here.
Have you got rounds in it now?
No, because you can't carry live rounds.
I just thought you might have some dummies.
Yeah, no. We've got musket balls and things like that, which the Sergant had. The standard weapon of the day was the British Brown Bess musket, which is this beast here. It was a black powder weapon. It could be very unreliable in bad weather, very crude and very
That's not good.
No, and the British soldier was trained to fire 3 rounds a minute from this thing. And how it worked, he would have had a black powder cartridge with a musket ball on the top of it. They would bit it, held the musket ball in the mouth. Now, they didn't know about lead poisoning, so they didn't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
And then they would be told to make ready, where they would throw the prison forward, and they would pour a small amount of black powder into this pan here, close the prison, and then they'd get an order to cast about. They would bring it down by the left leg, leaning it forward slightly because they had an habit of going off if you banged them. They'd put the ball and the rest of the powder down the barrel, and then they would ram that home. They would ram it down so it's against the breech, quite hard, withdraw the ramrod, and they would hold the ramrod aloft so that the sergeant or the officer could see that they had returned the ramrod and was not going to fire that at the enemy. Okay. Once they'd done that, they would get told to shoulder arms, which they would shoulder arm, and then they would get an order to make ready. They would swing it forward so the lock's out, bring it up, and they would cock the weapon as they brought it up. Now live. Then they would get told to make ready. They would bring it into the shoulder, bring the right foot back and hold. They wouldn't fire, they would hold to that position. Then, once they got to that position, they would wait till the French would maybe as close as that tent or whenever, and then they would fire, all in volley.
Wow.
And that would hopefully produce enough lead, the firepower, to knock down a fair amount of French, decimate the French columns. But the notorious thing was that 9 times out of 10, if the weather was wet or it's damp, this would just go click and nothing would happen because the powder was wet or something had happened here. By which what they would do, they would have these tools here, which is called a prick and a brush. They would clean the pan out and they would push it through the touch hole to clean the touch hole out. Now this one being a safe one so that people can look at it, doesn't have the touch hole. Okay. It's not live. And then they would try to fire this weapon again, but they would not be notorious unreliable.
Okay.
The rest of the kit I carry, the only difference with my kit is I carried a standard cartridge box, which was basically standard to most regiments, but I've got this pack here, which is a pioneer pack, which the normal soldiers would carry a backpack. The reason for that is because you would have to carry all these tools. And if our friend is here up there, has got a big axe on his back, I'd have to carry that and all.
Why have you got a wooden saw?
Wood saw?
Yeah.
Because we would do manual jobs like cutting trees.
I'm sorry, as you said in the beginning, that was your trade.
And cut wood, all sorts of things. They would carry basically tools that we still use today.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be cutting wood, or we might have shovels and pickaxes and various bits and pieces that we'd carry around with us just to clear camp. I mean, if the girls were here, we might be helping them to do cooking stuff and clearing campsites and putting all these tents up.
So you're going to get stuck in whatever needs doing?
Yeah, a bit like what later would be taken over by the Royal Engineers, what they do today, bridge building and all kinds of stuff like that. But at this time there was no set corps of engineers. Each regiment had a pioneer battalion.
The army still use the pioneers to this day, don't they?
Yeah, regiments still have pioneers, but they're more like a ceremonial thing these days. You know, they're the only guys in the regiment that's supposed to be bearded. And that was originally brought in because they done foundry work. And it stopped you getting face burn. It also why they had the long sideburns, because when this thing flashes, you fire it, it flashes and it can burn your face.
Okay.
But normally the guys in the line should be clean shaven, which is regulation that still exists today.
Okay.
You know.
Thank you.
That's all right, that's fine.
Yeah, I've learned a lot.
But if there's anything else you need to know about the kit or insurgent side of things, he can tell you about that.
Sorry.
Bold action moves.
We had 3 plant divisions then.
Oh, push free me, bully boys, I'm burdened in the yard. Gangway, down, Trinidad, to look for Sanido.
So rag, you worm, you maggot.
Captain Cutlass, what do you like, Dick Strucker? Way, hey, King Sanido. For with a cutlass in his hand, he is a real mean fighter. Round down Trinidad to look for Sanido. Oh, push free me, bully boys, I'm burdened in the hatchway. Way, sing Sanido. Oh, push free me, bully boys, I'm burdened in the hatchway. Round down Sanido. Oh, push free me, bully boys, I'm burdened in the hatchway. Way,
come on.
Sing Sanido. Oh, bush free me, bully boys, I'm burdened in the archway. Round down Trinidad to look for Sanido.
Get back in step.
Sorry, sir.
Get back to the ship. You maggots, you worms.
He loves us really. He loves us really.
An insult to the Navy.
We're privateers.
You're just an insult to anyone. You insult your mother, your father, your kin.
Yeah, always did. That's what they sent me to sea when I was 5 years old.
They got none leave, sir. They want to leave. Not when I get them back with the cat. The cat of nine's going to kiss them, I'll say. My words are true. Come on, back in line.
Let alone me.
Kid you not, if you like military stuff, this place is bonkers. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, we're the 29th Infantry, Hell and Back, Living History Reenactment Group.
So you've literally been to hell and back?
Yes, we have every Friday night.
Where did you actually see servicing?
On Omaha Beach.
Oh, okay.
On the Normandy invasion.
Get a real one.
So it takes quite a long time to acquire all the kit.
I'd say so, yeah.
not hundreds of years.
It
but-
depends how much money you've got. If
Yes.
you've got unlimited money, you can go out and buy it all. But if you're on a budget, then you've got to look for the deals and.
Would it not be threadbare though if it's 80 years old?
Well, this all is.
That's authentic.
The webbing is like Ellis. The trousers are real and the spats are real. And the shirt is, but no, that's a repro. But all the webbing is. If you look on the back, so the shovel cover on the back is actually First World War and the Doughboy pack. So it's got the single strap
The
down the
webbing
back.
on this one, the 45 holster, all 1942.
42, so middle of war. So you'd be an officer, would you? You're an officer because you've got a different style about it.
Yeah, cap.
Oh, okay.
Captain's bars, 2 bars captain, 1 bar lieutenant. Then we've got sergeants, corporals.
What are these rifles? Is that infantry?
Infantry.
Infantry.
Oh, Pop's heavy. Come over this way. This is Rich, my wife Gina, my boy Jack. Boy. You bet Rich in this
So this is a Daimler Dingo armoured scout, and this gentleman's going to tell us a bit about the history of it. So what you were saying, there's not so many of these around?
No, there were 6,626 built of all marks, Mark 1, 2 and 3, and there's about 100 known left in the world.
What year would this be?
I think this is a 1942.
Oh, okay.
So they made them all the way through the war. They were designed in 1938 and they were made all the way up to 1945.
So what, do you know the history where this would have served?
I don't. This isn't my one actually.
Oh, okay.
This belongs to a friend of mine. I do have one of these, and no, I don't know where either of them served. Unfortunately, the records kept during the war were minimal, to say the least.
Surprising.
About the only thing that we can find out about them is when they were first made, because we have the records of the contracts that they were ordered under, and when they were sold out of the army, because there's quite good records kept of when they're sold off.
Okay.
But wartime, it's very difficult to find exactly what they did. Sometimes you're lucky and you'll find an old photograph or a film clip and you can see your Dingo by that number, that F number.
Oh, okay.
That's the vehicle registration number, if you like, the army number for it. And sometimes you'll be lucky enough to see it in a photo and then you can see who used it. I look over the top, so you can see both sides. It's safe to drive, but nearly every other armoured car, you need the driver and a commander who can actually see all the way round because you have a limited view. So for that, they're really, really popular.
So how many are actually in England, do you know?
I don't, because that 150 is worldwide.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know personally of about 6 from friends of mine. But yeah.
Do you ever get together as a group?
The most I've together we did back in 2014. We did a royal pageant for the Household Cavalry up in London, and I think 8 altogether there. But normally at shows you get 2 or 3 together. But you know they're based all around the country, so people go to different shows.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So when they all look the same. Which glide is mine? Hold on. Yeah. Crash landed. You can't trick yourself.
Alex, I was over chatting with you the other year. I bought one of them, right?
It might be over now, it's quarter past.
Anyways, yeah, cool. You're looking right, just from the point man, you're looking front. Okay? And you're looking to the right as well, right? Ready? Good! One step forward, march! Right, rest! Ready? Does everyone remember? About, hey! About, hey!
Boys, I'm here to talk to you about the curse of soldiers for generations. VD, venereal disease.
Do you remember how to do about?
Hemmed in Normandy.
Oh, okay, so
it's
towards the end.
But August.
Yeah, the culmination of the Battle of Normandy.
Yeah, but August 44.
The last few days before the Americans and the British met up and closed the...
Who's that, sorry?
Was
it really? God, what mob was he in?
Richtig. Danke, danke. Weitermachen. And listen, James, when I turn the handle, what can you hear?
Ah! That's good.
We've been working on it.
Yeah.
We've been going.
So can I ask
The
you
little
how,
beauty.
how many years you've been reenacting?
Oh, do you really want to know with me? The first reenactment I went to was in 1974 when I was 14 years old, and I went to the 30th anniversary of D-Day. A chap called Peter Gray, who was one of the pioneers of military vehicle restoration in this country, took 100 vehicles back to Normandy in 1974.
100 vehicles?
So next year I will have been reenacting for 50 years. Absolutely far too long.
And you don't mind if I ask you the same question?
12 years.
12 years?
Yeah.
And why did you go for the German side?
Just preference.
You like the uniform?
I am ex-services as well.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah,
A lot
I was
of
in
people are.
Royal Marines.
Oh.
So grandfather was in my grandfather was in AU-30 auxiliary unit in World War II.
Wow.
Didn't make it to top of the hill before the
So the Italians have moved up, they're looking to, they're trying to convert their war Vikings to their German counterparts. Obviously the Italians
Come still. Rising. Sorry, no. Yeah, vertical. Head.
So they're coming up to investigate
Right.
just to see
Head.
what's going on. And that's probably the officer in the car.
Rising. Head. Twist your wrist. Like this. Bring down. Yep. Yep. Vertical. Head. Right. Reset. One more tempo. Left. Head. Up. Go!
You have to the British in advance of the uniforms off because they were a ragtag army. The truck's taking a hit, but the mortar crew have got out. It appears we've hit a bit of stalemate here because but no, the LRDG, they're going ahead. They're going to... The long range desert group have broken through the ranks. And the mortar team have put him into mortars. Some of the groups have been going through the prisoners just to check, make sure they haven't got any concealed weapons or anything. And the remainder of the there are
mini servo. So what you do, you pick. So how will you do it? Is you get it into place. Then I've got a spray can. He sprays it through the holes. You pull off the.
So everything you see in front of you, all the vehicles, all the kit, that's all private today. It's not from you or anything, it's what we collect, we manage. please do come and see us, up and see us. We're all in different groups, but you'll see us all on the desert side. Nicely done, gentlemen, nicely done.
Slot for it to go through. Has that got a twist slightly to get it goes in between the teeth. So that's unlocked and that's locked, isn't it? Maybe once the barrel's in, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, if you pull it forward, there'd be a slot for that to slide in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've never seen one before, so now he's off top.
Don't move it, twins are in there.
It's dead centre. So it's got to turn slightly. Right. A little bit more. And now come in.
You mean other than just to and from the bed?
Right, you just need to drop the end a bit.
Push down. You've got to go down. There is a slot in there.
Yeah. Is that slot located?
No, I know, it's helpful.
So there's a bit welded in there, isn't it? Blocking it.
Whether it acts as both, the one cut for that, and then it locks in so people can't put anything else in other than the barrel.
So, right, notch it back a little bit. Whoa. Look, there's grooves, there's vertical slots cut there. See that vertical slot there? It's not there.
Yeah.
Well, because look, these top cuts now at the top, they slot into their locations to stop the barrel spinning. Have you ever seen it coming? Right, don't move it.
Come now. I've not been here, have I? Oh, we found the pinhole. Huh? We found the pinholes on that side.
Everyone was saying, yeah, we'll take it out, it'll be fun games. Right, so you're going to tell me about this piece of kit, yeah? Well, as best you can.
Right, okay, what we've got here is 105mm howitzer motor gun carriage on a, I think this one's an M3 half track, I think this one. it didn't. We actually put this on ourselves, but it is similar to what they would have had, because normally you'd have the gun shield at the front. And what this would have been used for is covering artillery for an assault. You wouldn't have found this vehicle right sitting up on the front line.
Okay, so it's a rear artillery piece.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it's a mobile artillery piece. We wouldn't have gone vehicle on vehicle with this. The idea for us was to put in the covering fire, and then what we would do then is, as the advance moved forward, we would pack up and then move along, covering fire, moving along, covering fire.
What would the range be of this? It's a howitzer, you say?
Yeah, it's 105 howitzer. I'm not sure of the range off the top of my head because you've caught me on the Sunday.
Yeah, go on.
If you see the hole there, pyros go up there in the hole. This has all been sealed off. Just go in here, and then we want to run the wire down into our connector. This is all proper breech working and all that. Because of that, we can pretty much up to any size of pyro through here, because we're using a real breech and a real gun. And then what we do for effect is we have one of these shells here, and this sits in here, and when the gun's fired, one of the chaps will flick the shell back so you get the sound of the shell being fired.
So originally, what would this part be? Would it be where the...
Yeah, that's where the shell would come out, yeah. Because you'd have a guy loading the shell in, firing it, opening the breech, and then that would fly back out there, another shell goes in, open the breech.
So it's pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is a 105 howitzer that's been mounted onto a tracked vehicle. So it is a mobile, rather than sitting there being towed by a tractor unit, this is its own mobile piece.
So may I ask you what got you into this sort of lifestyle?
I was always interested in World War II history from a young age.
Yeah.
My dad took me to a Duxford Air Show when I was about years old. Brought me a little Vietnam outfit. I was hooked from there on collecting. Joined the forces when I was 17. Came out the forces in 93, 92, 93. And I missed the camaraderie. I knew this sort of thing existed, but I never looked into it. So done the same old thing, Googled it, realised that there's bunches of people that go around dressed as World War II soldiers in fields, like me. You know, I was doing it at home, and I've been doing this now for near on 30 years.
Well, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is. Well, it becomes a way of life, because all our spare time, we're down our farm working on the vehicles. When you're not doing that, you're away at shows. It pretty much takes over everything.
So this show is a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. This is probably one of the biggest shows in the south now. After the War and Peace ended, this is one of the biggest shows. Yeah. This is one of the biggest ones now. You've got Capel and Overlord, which are in the south as well. They're getting very big now. Because of the vehicles that we've got, we tend to stick to the shows local to us, because obviously transporting the tank.
There's quite a few hills here as well.
Well, every time we take the tank, someone's got to pay for a low loader. That's normally the show will pay towards this. We've got our own transport for the half track, our own truck for that, but obviously we have to charge for the fuel and that.
Of course. Thank you very much.
That's all right. That's all right.
Thank you.
No worries at all, my friend.
It's amazing what you find out if you just ask somebody, isn't it? I mean, that was something else. So let's go back into the arena area and see what we can find. Now we're with this second SAS.
Private time with wrong end. I feel like Huxley all over again.
What's that? The actual soul is up there. They fucking the leather around the angle. They're all put pictures in this back. So,
Mine discount hard on your BD. What's your BD?
I told you we had it.
Mate, you were just in the black zone yesterday. You two get lumped in together.
I don't think that's fair. That's,
No,
I mean,
You've got woodlands over the back, a brick wall which surrounds it with the graveyard going into the back of the woods, which is the infantry. Okay, so a footpath, a cycle path that cuts through into the woods. We've got 3 lamp posts on the main street, and these 2 are working, that one isn't, but they're yeah, so you've got to have a decent pointing stick. Allow me to find a stick. I don't know, I've seen one.
No, there was one there we go, look.
Nice one.
How long do you want it?
You know, the gas one, Mark 1, Mark 2, whatever, all that shit. No, I haven't got it.
Nothing these ones. It's, this one is just being used, I believe, as a communication house.
Yeah.
With 9 men, with 2 radio operators.
Go on, Corporal, get the balls on.
Trying to.
Gone to watch grey men fight blue men.
Oh, have they? Oh, they've gone to the
Standing around shooting each other.
It's like English Civil War, but worse.
Racist.
The tiger, because it always the tiger stick 234, and all the lorry loads of British troops. And they used to have the back.
Great detail, isn't it, they put into this. So Helen, you're just going to explain to me what your outfit does.
Okay, we're the Premier Choc, which is a French Special Forces unit, which was formed in round 43. I'm trained by the British SAS in England. And we representing a specific time, which is around the 15th of April in Germany in 1945. You've got the sign over there, which is near Double, and it's just an encampment basically in the Black Forest.
Oh, okay. So it's central Germany, was it?
Well, it's towards the French border, on the Belgian border.
Okay.
It's quite, it's not deep into Germany. It's basically.
So you were supplied by the SAS?
We was trained by the SAS.
Trained?
Some of the units was trained by the SAS in England, and some others was actually trained in North Africa. Once North Africa was liberated. Basically we equipped with American kit. Because the French army had very little equipment, you'll find a mixture of German weapon, German equipment, like I'm wearing a German pistol, a belt as well.
So whatever you can liberate?
Yeah, everything that, because they didn't have a lot, everything that they, you know, when they captured units, they obviously took the weapons
Yeah, of
and
course,
the equipment just to make up for the, you know, what they didn't have.
So this would be a mixture of German and American.
You've got American, German on the left range from World War II.
Oh, okay.
And you got an AMV Jeep, which was supplied to us by the American, obviously, still bearing the landing American stars, but you can see on the side a few of the French markings.
Around. Yeah, if you could explain.
The 5th company was basically the only company in the battalion which was equipped with Jeep, because a lot of the other company was really going into battle on foot, you know, because they was like the SAS or dropped by airplane. So that's the only motorised company that was in the unit. They was equipped. That was a heavy company. It was equipped with mortars and 50 cal machine gun, a few 30 cals as well.
And this vehicle over here is most
right,
interesting.
Yeah, that's a Fiat Topolino, which is a captured vehicle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my 1937 Fiat Topolino. It's an original Italian one.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the ones actually given to the Germans when they first went into Italy. The story behind it was actually given to the Kriegsmarines, so the German naval forces. But it had the interesting part, all it was used for was to take Italian pilots to the seaplanes at the ports.
Okay.
Until it was captured much later on in the war, where it just got sent off to random places until, of course, I bought it last year.
So this is the real deal?
This is the real deal. You won't see another one here. Extremely rare, for the main reason that you again, Fiat's rust and you won't find them whatsoever. But they had a sister company in France called Simca.
I had one.
Very good cars.
Yeah, I had a Simca.
Yeah, Simca's lovely bit of kit. But the main thing and big question I get asked is why is it on the right hand side? In Italy, in that time frame, in part of the war, in the 30s and part of the 40s as well, half the country drove on the left hand side of the road, the other half of the country drove on the right hand side of the road. So they made them with both sides so they could drive them, and also so they could export them at the same time. Because of course in the 30s, if you actually owned a car, you was quite wealthy. Because most villages back then only had 2 cars to one village. So we're currently using this for Battalion de Choc, for our French unit. What they actually captured quite a few of these in Italy. Everyone always asks, why do you have an Italian car in the middle of the Black Forest? They were issued throughout the German services. So you even see them in Russia.
Oh.
When the Italians were out there, and of course when the Germans were out there too. There's a very famous photo at Pegasus Bridge where there's lots of Italian and like mainly German equipment just left, and there's a Pak-88 there. And at the back of it, there's actually, it's there. But I actually have an original photo of Germans using a Fiat Topolino.
Okay.
Would you like to see it?
Yes, please. Let me zoom up on it. Oh my goodness. So what sort of year would that be?
That looks like it's probably early. It looks Italy. It's, of course, it's quite hard to tell these things unless there's no dates or anything with them. Private photo, I mean, it's early because they're wearing the M36 greatcoats. Probably early part of Italy at the same time.
And it says the Jungen, which is like the youth,
yes,
isn't it?
Exactly, yes.
Thank you.
Horse, you've just won. What do I get? You get good luck. If you win, the Mongolians are saying that the horse spirit is with you. This is dinner. So the Mongolians, they would eat the dinner and they would play a game with us all afterwards. Lots of different games that this is a game we play. Just do like went some fortune telling a lot. Like the horse is very lucky. The sheep is kind of lucky. The goat is a bit unlucky, and the camel, well, you don't want to get camels.
So these gentlemen are going to explain about the East German side of after the war. Okay.
So at the end of the Second World War, as a lot of people know, they divided Germany up into 4 zones of occupation. So you had the British zone, the French zone, the Russian zone, and the American zone. And then after a period of time, all the Western powers all amalgamated. So the French, the British, and the American zone became West Germany, and then but the Russians on to East Germany. Okay. So East Germany, the German Democratic Republic.
It wasn't recognised, was it?
No.
By the West.
No.
Until quite late.
It was carved up between. So Germany was carved up at the end of the war, and all the victors got a slice. Yeah. The Americans, British, and French put their slices together to form West Germany. The Russians decided to keep theirs. And we portray, I'm an East German border guard, my colleague is Kampfgruppen, which is sort of a reserve force, fighting groups of the working class.
When they retire from the NVA, National Volksarmy.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like something you could do as a pensioner?
Almost a
well, you go to a factory, you're a factory worker, and you have to do something in your spare time. You're either going to be a fire person, a fire guard, or something like that. So a lot of them chose to be a militiaman.
Okay. Now, would this get you on the queue for getting a Trabant? Would it throw any, you know?
Yeah, being a sort of a planned sort of communist economy, you would get stuff, but you would get it when the state decided you could get it. Yeah. So your wait for a Trabant could be 5 or 6 years. And also an interesting aspect of the East German thing is that there's a lot of nostalgia now. A lot of people looking back, as we all do, and looking back at the past and thinking, actually everything was good. And in East Germany, everyone had a job. There was no unemployment. No unemployment. Everyone had a job. You had the right to a university education, but of course
free healthcare.
Free healthcare. But there were lots of restrictions. Obviously, you had to toe the party line and stay in line.
Couldn't travel outside the Warsaw Pact, could you?
Yeah, travel to friendly countries.
Okay. So how long? So can I ask you what got you into this in the first place?
Yes, it was.
It's unusual, isn't it?
It's a different hobby. Yes, I think the kit was generally fairly available. So what would it's a bit like when you buy the hat, you want the shoes and the handbag and the belt to go with it. Yeah. So you find something that's relatively inexpensive. For example, the jacket. You buy the jacket for a tenner. Actually, that's quite cool. I put like the trousers to go with it, and then the belt. And then you start to get into it seriously, and then you find that some of the little bits are really quite expensive.
Yes.
And my wife calls it a rabbit hole. You drop down and they say, oh yes, I'll have this and I'll have that. But yes, you sort of drift into these things like a lot of hobbies. You have a little dabble and then
away you go.
It takes over. Yeah. Hi, Mike.
SPD. Or
SPD.
Yeah.
So in the Warsaw Pact armies, the sniper will be part of the squad. Because you might think, being a sniper with a bayonet on the end of your weapon, you've sort of failed. Because if they get close enough to use the bayonet, it's sort of not really worked, does it? But in the Soviet forces and the Warsaw Pact forces, the owner of the sniper rifle was part of the squad, so he would
platoon,
have to, the platoon. I beg your pardon. So he would have to fight if it got up close and personal. He would have to get involved with the rest of his platoon to fight. So rather than have a dedicated sniper in a separate,
more dedicated rifle,
was the best shot in the unit, I guess.
Indeed, one that could shoot straight. Yeah.
Because obviously, when he's making his way to and from where he's got his position, he could be ambushed, couldn't he? And if he's got a bayonet on the end.
Well, they're designed to shoot the NCOs, the officers, from the other side. That's their job. So they would flip from flank to flank probably. So they'd be probably a fitter soldier as well.
Yeah, because the trick would be to decapitate or to take out the leaders, wouldn't it? So to look for the officers and remove those from the equation.
Being the capitalists, once they lose their officers, they'll know what to do.
Exactly.
Whereas us in the East, we're fully capable of looking after ourselves. Yeah.
Indeed.
And I understand that you do have a Trabant, because I was making fun of Trabants.
Yes.
But they're actually very collectible now, aren't they?
I think
What's
they're-
it like to own a Trabant?
The Trabant is I think it's quirky. Yes, they're not designed for people much over 5'6" because it's quite a squeeze inside. I think the engine is very basic. It's basically 600 cc's. Two-stroke. Smoky, but like when they marketed the Wartburg, which is also two-stroke and smoky, what they said, it changes its own oil. You never have to change the oil with a two-stroke because you put it in with the petrol.
Yeah, that's right.
With the Trabant, you don't. The early models, you don't have a petrol gauge. You have a stick, and at certain intervals, you'll put the stick in the tank, and there's little notches on it to show you how much petrol you've got. A dipstick.
Yeah.
But also inside, like an old motorbike, the fuel tank has a switch. So when the Trabant starts to cough, it's running out of fuel. You push the switch, and it takes the petrol from lower down in the tank. But then you know you're getting close to having to fill up. And it is quite bizarre because the tank is on top of the engine under the bonnet. So when you pull into a petrol station, you lift the bonnet up, and then you start putting the petrol into this tank, which is standing on top of the engine. And people are looking at you thinking, that guy is putting petrol into the radiator. Now he's pouring oil in there as well. Is this all going to work?
Shall we get away quickly?
Yes. But it makes that iconic two-stroke that is unmistakable. When I bought my first one, we got it in London. I bought it from a guy who was selling it. And as he came round the corner with it, you get this cloud of blue smoke, and as I say, the classic the two-stroke sound.
It sounds perfect to take into the Ules zone.
I think
That would be good, doesn't it?
Mr. Khan would have 7 shades of conniptions faced with
It's a
one of
vintage
those.
vehicle, you can't stop it, can you?
Probably not, vintage
If it's
vehicle.
before 73, I believe you can take it in.
Well, perfect.
I feel a protest against Ules coming on.
No, I used to-
On a cold morning when you start this up, it's like a First World War battlefield with gas just been
Maybe I
launched.
should get myself one.
Yes. But no, they're a lot of fun. You wouldn't want to drive a long way in it. Common misconception is they're made of cardboard. They're not. The actual bodywork is something called Duraplast, which is an early form of fiberglass. So durable that it doesn't actually degrade. And when they were getting rid of the Trabants, because no one wanted a Trabant, they all wanted the Volkswagen Golf, they actually had to grind up the bodies to get rid of the Duraplast shell.
And the chassis, what though?
The chassis was steel and obviously very prone to
Well, next time you should bring it in.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's over there.
Oh,
Yeah. Where are we looking? At the ferret?
Yeah. Yeah, go, what's that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So here we have a really unusual one, the NP8, the Mongolian People's Army. So if you could explain a bit about your outfit and what you do.
No problem. So the Mongolian People's Army is set up in the 1920s by a communist government which is backed by the Soviet Union. Our uniforms are essentially Red Army uniforms which have been given some Mongolian flair. So on my collar in particular, we've got Mongolian Cavalry Regiment collar tabs, and I'm the equivalent of a sergeant's rank. Other than that, I've got a Soviet-style OBR 31 tunic and Red Army breeches and boots, whereas my colleague has got the OBR 35 tunic.
Sorry, what is this cover?
So this is a bandolier. So the Mongolian People's Army didn't really use ammunition pouches like we see in the Red Army. The Red Army used leather, split-type pouches to carry the ammunition. However, the Mongolian People's Army was never issued them from the Red Army, or was issued very small numbers. So the majority of the men had to use a bandolier. But rather than putting it across their shoulder, they would wrap it around their waist like such. It acts as an ammunition pouch, and I've got all my bullets in here ready to go.
How many rounds would you carry in that? Do you know?
It's about 50 to 60 depending on how I pack it. There are 7 cells. Each cell can put 2 5-round clips.
So that's more than a sort of modern infantryman.
Yes, yeah. And remember that what we're portraying is cavalry, so we're packed as light as possible. We will have our rifle with us, and we've got our cavalry sabre. This has got a shashka. It's a Cossack-style sword. It's the standard Red Army sword, and the Mongolian cavalry would have had their shashkas. But due to the Buddhist religion of the men, they wouldn't carry certain items that the Red Army would have carried. For example, shovels with metal handles. In Mongolian culture, it's highly offensive to the spirits of the land to dig holes with metal implements. Indeed, yeah.
That's interesting.
So when the Red Army was in Mongolia, they actually found it deeply offensive that when they were digging the trenches at the Battle of Khalkhin that they were using metal shovels, but the Red Army took priority in the battle, so therefore they got their way. I'll put that down there for now, and then I'll pick it up when I need it.
So this weapon you're holding now is a...
So this is the three-line rifle model 1891. Most people know it as the Mosin Nagant. It's named after the two inventors of the weapon. Three lines is the caliber, line being an old Imperial Russian unit of measurement. This is the standard Imperial Russian firearm for World War I, and a modified version of this, the 1891-30, is the standard World War II Soviet rifle. Now the Mongolian People's Army got shipments of Mosins from as early as 1921, and they were still receiving firearms into the 1940s, so they would have had an eclectic mix of old and new. So this one here I've chosen to bring out today because it represents the older side of what the Mongolian People's Army would have been using.
And the bayonet is particularly nasty looking.
Yeah, it is. So it has a cruciform shape. Some people say that the Geneva Convention bans this, and as far as I'm aware, that's actually a misconception. But the cruciform shape makes it harder for a medical personnel to sew up, so you're more likely to bleed out.
Ouch.
To carry this on his horse, along with his sword and any other equipment, that would all be carried on the horse. I just don't want him to smack me in the face.
Yeah, be safe.
You ready?
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you can use something useful from that.
I will. So now we are at the Soviet Field Hospital. I believe we're going to witness an operation.
Are you starting?
Yeah.
Are you working?
Пинцет. Маску можешь оставить, чтобы Андрюха не улыбался. Пинцет. Так, маску оставляем, понятно.
Вообще маску нужно было оставить на ней.
Сейчас, да, ржать начнем. Второй пинцет давай сразу. Саша,
Давай,
ты говори
все-таки,
громко.
давай. Я ему
Это
одену
самое.
маску, когда ты
Ты-
будешь резать.
Ты охреневший от операции доктор.
Ну как, это ж не раз, он ржет,
Да?
давай.
Не ржи, не ржи.
Просто кино снимаем. Давай,
Кино
давай.
снимай, снимай.
Так.
Пило.
А скальпель? Скоро будет
Становись с
скальпель.
этой стороны. С этой стороны становись.
А скальпель потом? Давай я вот так, да? И я тебе
Давай,
поднесу
да.
таз, окей?
Так, где?
Ты режь, как будто режь.
А, нужно, чтобы его держал. Держи его за плечи. Андрей, держи его за плечи.
Давай, то сейчас. Слышишь, а ты вот
его
какие-то крики,
прижимаешь,
да?
да? И второй
Ну,
будет
крики
боец за
сделай.
ноги его держать. Yes, yes, Mark, that's exactly what
делаешь?
Давай,
Что
ну.
творишь? Больно!
Ну, громко, громко.
Все? Нет? Китов, бинты, срочно. Давай. Слушай, ее бы лучше как-то для зрителей положить куда-нибудь. Да. Короче.
Для зрителей? Ну, что
Окей.
вставляешь? Ну, может так, ну, не знаю, что-нибудь.
Андрюх, наркоз не сработал.
Doing the job then, isn't it?
Yeah, the only thing I found with this one I bought it was it's wool liner.
Oh, right.
And it's, as I've worn it now,
Follow that.
It's nice to have a little bit sort of put to one side, and then you see something.
So you can see this place is really, really big. So it's actually on this year for 3 days.
hold the phone.
I really like the combat one.
With the white rag coins. Oh my god.
The shade.
Yeah, you sir.
Good though, isn't it? The line.
Stand over here, Ralph. Someone's filming.
Should we have a look at the...
Go there, my daddy. That clothes shop just behind here.
Should we organise them?
So, just discovered General Schwarzkopf. First Gulf War.
First Gulf War. This is Schwarzkopf in '91.
Yeah.
When he got given his medals by the French. So this one, and the breast badge goes with this, and he was presented these with the highest ranking officer of the French Foreign Legion. He was made honorary corporal, believe it or not, by the French Foreign Legion, while he was, because he was in charge of all the troops, wasn't he? The whole.
Because they're not actually part of France, are they?
Sorry?
They're not actually part of France, are they? Foreign
What do you
Legion?
mean?
I think there's
No. You're thinking of no. There is the French ones are the Légion Estrange, which is Foreign Legion in French. But there is another legion that is nothing to do with France. You're right.
Oh,
There
okay.
is another desert legion that is not to do with France.
So what, can I ask you, what got you into becoming Schwarzkopf?
I got the Humvee.
Oh, okay.
And then that got me interested in the First Gulf War.
Oh, very good.
So from that, I got interested in Norman Schwarzkopf and the whole idea, the whole what he was about. So I've sort of done a lot of research into Norman, Storming Norman, as they call.
How do you find it with the Americans? How do they take you? Have you had any?
I haven't had any comments on this from any Americans, but I haven't actually met anyone when I've been. But some of them are a little bit straight. Obviously most of this, apart from the French stuff, I have actually bought from the States. So me, I am merely portraying Norman Schwarzkopf.
Okay,
so, in that respect.
So, did you have a lot of trouble because you've obviously done your research to match this?
Yes, it's taken me about 3 years to get all this
Really?
together, and so because some of these medals people are not really allowed to sell on the internet. So it's very difficult getting hold of them.
You're certainly dedicated.
Yeah. And all these, like the palms and the stars and they all mean something basically. And they are sometimes difficult to get hold of. Get them off of other medals. Some of them have been transferred from other medals. So I've had to buy sort of a job lot of medals to get the odd one.
Have you ever had any correspondence from the actual gentleman himself?
Well, he's not with us
No,
anymore.
but when he was. Did he?
No. I really wasn't into it until I bought this. I bought this 5 years ago, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
So well, then it was too late.
Yeah, of course. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I've got a lot of books that he wrote, and I've watched a lot of interviews
Done
that
a lot
he
of
did.
homework.
Yeah.
So is this from the actual period as well?
Yes, this was built in 1987. It was used in the First Gulf War when they didn't use any armour.
Oh, really? Soft-skinned?
Yeah, it is a soft skin. I've got the soft doors for it. It was sold off on the US government auctions with no doors, as they sell them with no doors. They've only just started selling the armoured ones with no doors, of course, because originally they were cutting them up, but then they realised
they're valuable.
Well, yeah.
There's a market, isn't there?
Yes, because I believe
the US government paid, I think it was nearly $80,000 for this vehicle. So that's a lot of money, and they sold it for 5,000.
Oh, ouch! 5,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got
obviously
a
it
good
was
deal.
in. Yeah.
But you got shipping inside.
Well, I didn't buy it myself. Someone else bought it, shipped it over, paid all the duties and what have you. So you can be who you want to be.
Okie dokie. Let's have a little sit. Don't mind if I sit in there?
Yeah, go for it.
General? Oh wow.
There's not a lot of room, is there?
No, not considering it's very wide.
Well, it's built for a purpose. Do you know the reason why it's wide?
No.
So that the tyre tracks are the same as a truck or a tank.
Oh.
So when you're in convoy, you're not struggling to keep up with them. You're in the same ruts.
So you're staying in the ruts. That makes
Yes.
sense, doesn't it? Oh,
because it is basically a Jeep. It's
Yeah.
a Jeep replacement. And obviously Jeeps struggle.
This is soft top. Soft
Yeah,
top.
soft top, insulated soft top.
So it's pretty basic, isn't it, inside?
Yeah, very basic. The gauges, switches, most of the switches are the same from the 1940s.
Oh my goodness.
They haven't really changed them.
So I take it
Obviously
they've got a
the-
lot in stock, in surplus, and they've just used what they had.
Oh, yeah.
America being...
Well, no, they've made them new.
Oh,
but,
they have?
But to the old design.
Oh,
because
okay.
it's a trusted design.
It works, yeah.
Yeah, it works, so why fix it?
Exactly.
I mean, the later ones will have LED and push button switches, but they made it the same shape.
Yeah, well, I think
But you
they're
had
more
to-
reliable.
Yeah.
What's this one here?
That is the air filter telling you it's restricted.
Oh, wow, look at that.
And there's your indicator, which also has hazards on this one. This is a later indicator. But you have to sort of push this button, indicate right, which you'd be going into the curb first, and then put it and press the button, and you're on your hazards.
Okay, well, I think you've got a very interesting hobby. Nice to talk to you, General, anyway.
Okay.
Now we've got a reenactment of a Kent police station. Oh, somebody's been in trouble. So sergeant's on duty.
Sorry?
Sergeant's on duty.
Yeah, I'm on duty. I'm death side. Is it on video as well?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
So I'll ask permission.
Well, I'm death. Okay, I'll let you do that first. Right. That's all Viv the Spiv there.
It's very authentic.
It is good, isn't it? That's done it good, haven't they?
Very impressive. And you got your cat.
Sorry?
And you got your cat.
That's our cat there, and there, look. We haven't fed him today, so he keeps meowing.
So what period would we be looking at now?
We'd be about 1940s, Battle of Britain time.
Okay, Battle of Britain.
Yeah.
So what would your responsibilities be? Because obviously the war's on.
Yeah, well, I'm desk sergeant.
Okay.
And desk sergeant always had sort of the crowns on his sleeve. Yeah, all I do is just sit here and take different reports that are coming in, anybody that's been in an accident or any trouble, and then obviously I put another constable, we have to lock anybody up in the cell there.
So that could include, for example, downed enemy aircraft.
That's right, yeah. Sometimes if we got a pilot, we had, we had a Messerschmitt pilot in here yesterday.
Oh,
yeah, got shot down, so we didn't lock him up. He was already been on guard in any case. He had a couple of soldiers with him. So.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I haven't got my colour done up. I'm sorry about that.
That's fine. Can you Can I ask you how you got into reenacting a constable or a desk?
Well, I used to do reenactment for Victorian. That's when I first started, because I was chairman of the Russia and Chattanooga Dickens Fellowship.
Ooh.
So I'd done a lot of that for about 40 years, and then about the last 25 years I met a friend and started to get into 1940s, and that's where it's gone from there. But now I have to wear things for my age now, so I can get away with policemen, and I can do Dad's Army, and men from the ministry. But of course, because of your age-wise, you have to. I mean, I'm 85 now, so I'm getting a bit.
85?
Yeah.
You look good for your age.
Thank you. So I have to wear things for my. But a few weeks ago at Hever Castle, they got me doing Godfrey.
Okay.
So
yes,
my sister Dolly loves to make upside down cakes. Yeah, so that's how I really got into it.
So you actually remember World War II? Sorry.
I can. Yeah.
I
was born in 1938.
Wow.
And when I finished my apprenticeship when I was 21, and I was due to go in national service. I was last batch, but I never went in because I had asthma.
Oh, I see.
But I never had asthma. When I was 3 years old, I was laying on the sofa with my mum and dad were there, because Dad got called up in 1942 to go to Italy, and a German bomber got turned, because I was very near Gravesend Airport. German bomber got turned there by the fighters, dropped its bombs on the top road, and when Dad looked at me, I'd turned purple. I was laying on
goodness.
course of shock.
Oh,
and
right.
after that, I developed asthma. So he brought me round. I don't know if you
saved your life.
Yeah, I don't know if he thought he'd done the right thing or not. Yeah, so that was
I'm
it.
sure he would if he looks back
But
now.
I never had. I wasn't born with it, but it's a shock, wasn't it?
Yeah, the shock of it.
But yeah, and that was done. You could still see the damage on some of the roofs of in Rochester Road, where it was repaired during the war. Unbelievable. So that's my story about.
Well, thanks for your time.
No, very nice.
Really appreciate it.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, mate. Thank you.
He adapted it to 303.
Okay, can you explain a little bit about the Royal Navy Beachmaster?
Yeah, so the Royal Navy Beachmaster was basically the man who was in charge of the Royal Navy Beachhead Commandos. Royal Navy Beachhead Commandos were a group of Royal Navy sailors who were trained to be commandos in order to be able to fight and survive on land as needed. So the Royal Navy Beachmaster was normally a lieutenant or a lieutenant commander, and his job was to have overall command of whatever beach they were on at the time. Beach commander involved in every amphibious landing from 1942 moving forwards until 1946 when they were disbanded. So that includes Italy, Sicily, Salerno, Normandy landings, all of the rivers across the ETO. So anywhere that there was an amphibious assault across a body of water, Royal Navy Beachhead Commandos were involved in that. And the reason for that is they very quickly realised that they needed people who understood boats and tides and things like that to be able to look after the landing craft and vessels that were being used for that assault. And who better to do that than the Royal Navy? The Royal Navy's training, the commando training took place in Scotland at a place called HMS Armadillo, which is in Achnacarry. And the training consisted of learning everything from how to drive vehicles, how to deal with explosives, how to fire weapons, because a lot of the Royal Navy sailors hadn't really fought or fired with small arms. It wasn't part of something they needed, so they had to have that training as well as learning how to do explosives, demolitions, so on and so forth.
It's quite an involved job then.
It absolutely was, and that's one of the reasons why we're very, very proud to be able to portray Royal Navy Beachhead Commandos, because not a lot of people know that they existed, not a lot of people knew what they did. And they were such a specialist group of guys. They had such unique training, and they had to do all of that whilst being under fire. A beach, somewhere like Normandy or Italy, had already been in the hands of the enemy for many years, which meant that every section of that beach was zeroed in. So they were trying to do their job under a huge amount of fire, because the enemy were desperate to make sure that they didn't maintain that. So that's why we're very, very keen to look after their reputation and bring forward their story.
Excellent. Can I ask you how you got into becoming the living history reenactment for the Beachmaster?
Yeah, absolutely. So I served in the Royal Navy myself for 13 years. Was very, very interested in military history anyway. And when I came out, I had the opportunity to go to the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings in Normandy with a friend of mine, and that was kind of where the bug really bit. From there, I then started, getting bits and pieces of some uniforms, so on and so forth. Then I found these guys at an event, got talking to them. They realised that I was ex-Navy. It just kind of went from there. So using my Royal Navy knowledge, I've helped to just polish those edges that, the naval knowledge that perhaps wasn't quite there, but these guys have really helped me to learn the history of the Royal Navy Commandos and learn what they've done as well. So.
Okay. This equipment you've got here, is there anything that's unique to your branch?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me grab one of those weapons for you.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of the more unique pieces that we have. This is a Lanchester submachine gun. So the Lanchester submachine gun was the first submachine gun that the British forces had, and this is tri-service initially. So at the beginning of the war, it was considered uncouth to have a submachine gun because it was felt that actually we should only be using aimed shots and therefore only using rifles. When we realised that the Germans were using submachine guns to really good effect, the decision was made that we needed to purchase, to manufacture or purchase one. A guy called George Lanchester had some plans and some ideas and basically made this weapon. So this was initially given to the army, however it's quite a heavy weapon and therefore wasn't particularly useful when you were fighting in the field. However, the Navy realised that something that could fire a 9mm round was really useful on board a ship because it would reduce the amount of ricochet that you would get should you hit a metal object such as the inside of a ship. It can take 50 rounds in the magazine, it can empty that very quickly. The gun has a rate of fire of around 600 rounds a minute. The other lovely thing about this is it will take an 18-inch sword bayonet, which means that if you're face to face with a German who has a rifle and a small bayonet, you're actually not losing any range. You have exactly the same level of range with your bayonet as he does with his, which means you're not at a disadvantage. These fell out of favour in around 1943. The reason being is that to make one of these is quite an involved process. It takes a lot of learning, a lot of skill. It takes a trained manufacturer to be able to drill and cast all of the metal components. Okay, and this is why it kind of fell out of favour, because it was a very expensive weapon to make. However, this then led to the Sten gun. So if I open it up here, you'll see the working parts are very, very similar to the Sten. And the reason was that around 1943 they learnt how to press steel, which then meant that they can manufacture the Sten off of this, but for a lot less money and a lot less man hours. Now during the war, man hours and manufacturing time was actually a premium, so they needed to try and reduce that as much as they could, and that's why this then led to the Sten.
Thank you very much, very informative.
The Lee Enfield being the standard rifle for the British forces at the time. So what would normally happen is you'd normally have, in a group of men, you'd have around 7 men with Lee Enfield rifles. You'd then have the man in charge, so normally a leading hand or a petty officer, would have a submachine gun, and then you'd have a 2-man Bren gun team. So you'd have one man with the Bren and you'd have his second, and his second was there to basically load the weapon, keep passing in magazines for as long as he needed to utilise the system. On occasion,
very organised.
Yeah, absolutely. The number 2 for the Bren gun would also carry the tripod. This could be used in an anti-aircraft role, as it is here, or it could be set up in a ground support role. It was very rare that they do that because it was quite a big heavy piece of kit, and generally speaking the only time you'd want the Bren gun to be stationary would be if you're staying in a position for a very long time. Normally what they do is they use the front bipod for the gun, and they'd utilise that for as long as they needed to, and then they'd get up, move forward and keep moving forward as required. Obviously us being beach commandos, we would stay on a beach for a long period of time, so actually day 3, day 4, when things just start to ease off a little bit, that's when we'd be more likely to set up the tripod and have that Bren gun in a fixed position if needed.
Thank you. Can you just explain your insignia now?
Absolutely.
I was looking at them and I was trying to work out.
So the insignia we have is the Royal Navy Commando stripe. This basically indicates that we're Royal Navy Commandos to the Army and RAF that we might be working with. We also have the Combined Ops patch. Now, Combined Operations during the war was basically a catch-all for anyone who was trained or expected to work with all of the services. So these were people who knew how to operate with the Army and the RAF and the Navy at the same time. So during things like beach landings or assaults, where you would have all of the services trying to work together, so that's why they have a combined ops badge. And you can see here that it has the eagle to represent the RAF, has a weapon, a rifle, to represent the army, and then the anchor to represent the navy. This here is my trade badge, so this indicates that I am a first-class sailmaker. So a sailmaker is a traditional naval rank that goes back to the days of old when we had big sailing ships such as the Victory. And the sailmaker's job on board was to look after all of the canvas and rope work on board a ship. Now, as a general rule, an old sailing ship would have somewhere in the region of 200 yards of canvas aloft at any one point in time. Now, that's a large amount of canvas that needs to be looked after. And anything from a strong gale to enemy fire could damage that canvas. But that's your main mode of propulsion, so it needs to be repaired as quickly as possible. Moving forward into the modern era, so such as the Second World War, there was still a lot of canvas used on board ship, although it was predominantly used for things like coverings and in order to patch holes. So the sailmaker was still available in order to do a lot of that work. On this arm, I have my rate. So the anchor here indicates that I'm a leading hand. Okay, and this is called a killick. Basically, it's a fouled anchor, and the killick is now a nickname, if you like, for a leading hand. I also have 3 stripes underneath. These are my good conduct badges. This means that I haven't been caught committing anything that would be considered a crime for 15 years. So you get your first one at 4 years, second one at 8 years, and your third one at 15.
Would that be unusual in the Navy with drinking and so on?
As a general rule, no. Matlows tend to be very, very good at getting away with stuff. However, you could be disrated. You could also lose your good conduct stripes. That is something that happens quite often. However, generally speaking, they weren't drinking that much. Within the Navy, there's a general rule that you only have 2 or 3 beers per man per day, and that's current. However,
isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. However, during the war, they were entitled to a tot of rum a day as well. So, alcohol was restricted. It was normally when chaps went ashore and they were trying to blow off a bit of steam. That's normally when they'd get themselves in trouble.
Thank you for your time.
No problem
Very
at all. No worries. I hope.
So here we have a lesser known special forces from World War II.
So the PPA were a special forces unit who was set up in 1942 in Egypt. The idea was to chase after Rommel's fuel dumps throughout the desert. Popski was a very eccentric fellow, fought in the First War for the French, and then when the Second World War started, decided to go and join the British Army. Upon telling him he was too old and too fat to join, he used his personal connections to gain certain favours and start a special forces unit.
How old was he when you say he's too old?
He was approaching 50.
Oh.
He was over the age of 50. And the British Army said it wasn't your time anymore.
Okay.
After that, he was able to acquire jeeps, 50 men, and they were able to set off from Cairo and start chasing the fuel dumps. After a little bit of time chasing across the desert, Rommel's forces and a little bit of research, they were strafed sadly in the desert by Messerschmitts and lost most of the patrol bar 3 jeeps. This then caused them to have to join up with the LRDG and refit with the Americans.
So what's that LRDG?
The LRDG were the Long Range Desert Group.
Oh, okay.
After this refit, they were given new jeeps and heavy 50 cal machine guns, and their job was to chase down Italian and German armoured cars, as well as hitting the fuel dumps. When they got into Tunisia, they were retrained as airborne units, but never actually jumped into action, choosing instead to stay within the jeeps and the heavily armoured vehicles and do raids similar to the SAS, but normally hitting fuel dumps and armoured vehicles.
Can I ask you, did they work alongside the SAS?
They didn't. The SAS were often absent. You hear a lot of the SAS. They were very famous, and their job is always very well known.
Okay.
The PPA often worked on their own and away from everyone else. It was a thankless job, as they are often forgotten to history, but they were also known to give away the glory of some of their more impressive attributes to other units in turn for equipment, men, and rations. especially the Americans, after gifting them Johnny Walker for private purchase Colt 45 revolvers, Lugers and other weapons.
Okay.
Tom comes in hand because he was working with the people from the Friends of Field of Fire,
Friends of
Popski's private army. And then obviously we've got a guy called Alan who works with the photos.
So it's obviously a lot of research to find out what they would have used.
There's 3 to 4 books on Popski's private army. The first one written by Popski himself, called Popski's Private Army. Then there was one written by his second in command, a gentleman called Park Uni, sometimes referred to as Bob Uni on the books. His was a more wartime account. And then you had From the Workhouse to Vienna, is based on one of their signalmen. It was his private biography. And then there is a 4th book, which is quite expensive to buy now. It's called Warriors on Wheels, which was Park Uni's original biography. They are all worth a read because it's something that Hollywood couldn't replicate.
So you're looking for people to join your outfit?
Always looking for people who are interested to come along, learn more and join the outfit if they're interested.
It's more importantly is to make sure that the unit gets recognition of what they've done.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's more like it's a forgotten unit that people don't know about. So for actually educational purposes, it's good to actually make sure that
keeping the history alive.
That's it.
Definitely.
At the end of the day, that's what we do as reenactors. We try and keep the memories alive. We work with the veterans of all different units, pick up lots of stories, and it's interesting to see the youth coming up and you're telling them about the history, the sort of antics and the things that the vets used to get up to.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And at the end of the day, it's about making sure that their life isn't forgotten. It isn't what they've done to put us in the position we are now.
Okay.
There's some amazing stories revolving around the men, and a few of us are wearing facial hair, which isn't very regular in the British
I
Army.
thought you was representing South Africa, the Boer War.
In PPA,
yeah.
after 5 patrols, a gentleman was allowed to grow facial hair. It was a sign of the old guard. And most men, if they couldn't handle being behind the lines, because it wasn't just 10 or 15 miles behind the lines, it was 2, 3, maybe even 500 miles behind the lines in Africa or in Italy. Some did return to unit out of their own choice, but the old guard had a beard or maybe some nice captured equipment and uniforms, and it was a sign of respect and a sign of that they've earned it, really.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's why a few of us are very scruffy. We wear mismatched American kit and British kit because they had no uniform standards really to keep up to until later in the war, when Popski said you have to get rid of everything American apart from the underwear, lads, because I know that's comfortable.
That's what you say, explosive.
That's why I did call you explosive.
So here we have the last Roman on site, and he's going to tell us a bit about what he's wearing.
Got a pair of Caligai here, made from one piece of leather, studded leather soles, hobnails in.
Is that for our very slippery, muddy climate?
Absolutely. So Roman style of fighting is basically form a shield wall and you have to dig in. And when the barbarians coming towards you, they give you that traction on the ground.
So what outfit were you actually in, sorry, just before you...
I was wearing chainmail, 6mm chainmail vest with reinforced shoulders.
Oh, okay.
And I had, oh gosh.
Chainmail and...
Yes, I'm just throwing a metallic helmet.
Oh, okay.
With a Centurion's plume,
yeah,
which goes transversed. Neck guard,
yeah,
so that when I'm hiding behind my scutum, somebody stabbing over the top of that will hit that and won't go in the neck of my armour.
So can I ask you what sort of decade or century you're?
We're portraying the 14th Legion in around 70 AD.
Oh, okay.
So we've invaded Britain.
So it's Claudius?
Yes.
After Claudius?
It's just after Claudius. And we're the Legion, the 14th Legion, came down Watling Street to have a bit of a Barney with Boudica.
Okay.
Who is actually here on site today, and we've had a bit of a photo shoot with her.
See?
Yes.
So I think your lot had a camp, a fort where I live in Billericay.
Oh, right.
Yes, you did.
Excellent.
It's not there anymore, but it was there.
Well, yes, as we cleared off about 1600 years ago.
So sorry, I've interrupted you with your...
Right, so I was just saying about the caligar on my feet here. Woolen socks, because if you ever walk through heather with sandals on, you'll know why they wore wool socks or wraps around the legs and toes. And in the early years, these bracci would have been considered barbaric wearing trousers. However, as the legions advanced north into Europe, and if you've ever spent a winter in Germany, trousers are a very good idea. Coming that, I've got my tunic, I've got my under armour padded shirt, which would then soften any blows.
Is that woolen as well?
No, this is linen.
Linen?
Yes. This is linen, dyed blue, and because I'm Centurion, got a bit of bling on it, rather than a plain one. Then we're coming up to the cloak, which is wool, pure wool. In days like this, protects my armour from the sun. If it's cold and raining, I just whip it around.
Very, very clever.
Absolutely. There we go.
As a Centurion, if I'm not mistaken, you're allowed to marry, is that right?
Yes.
A local?
With the General's permission.
With the General's permission?
Yeah. Failing the General, Primus Pilum, the first spear, who's the top Centurion in the army.
So can I ask you another question? If you was to go back in time, what, as a Roman, say, what sort of century and what sort of emperor would you like to serve?
I think a little bit earlier I'd like to go under Claudius.
Okay.
And witness the invasion of Britain.
Yeah,
I
so
know
you'd
that
be-
sounds
yeah.
a bit sad, but
Yeah.
what a magnificent experience to watch
Claudius, yes.
Roman legions and how
With
they
the
fought.
elephants.
Absolutely. Now
That's the
that
Colchester.
was the last time elephants were ever used in battle, I believe, by the Romans.
Because they actually passed where I live. More or less,
Right.
yes. They landed at, they believe, Tilbury.
Yes.
Or the Thames.
Yep.
And they marched up through Essex.
That's right.
To Chelmsford, Colchester.
And that's it. And that's when the trouble with Boudica started, really,
Yes.
let's face it.
Yes.
Who never upset a redhead.
Well, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
So are you representing War of the Roses of Richard III's time? Or flexible?
Yeah, we're over there.
I think there is a specific year where we're meant to be, or like a specific, very specific time period, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll call you off yet.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't in like reenactor brain. I was in sort of like, oh my gosh, fabric.
Fabrics, okay. So what's taking your fancy? Anything?
Well, we are making this stuff out of 2 rabbits.
Yeah, I see it.
For the yellow dress there.
Okay.
They're only £6, so you know, why not? That's what's taken our fancy. Everything else, I'm too broke for. Oh, okay. I got the answer. It's 1470 to 1490.
1470, 1490?
Yes, I forgot.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It's been a long day.
Oh.
Yeah. I said, well, you know what you can do? You can have that, and then if you had a black
We have a number 1 cooker, which is down on the bottom.
So this one here?
Petrol. Fill it up with petrol, pressurise it, allow the petrol out a small jet, and you set fire to it.
Quite dangerous, though.
It's like a fire-breathing dragon.
Oh, is it?
It chucks out a big flame out of it.
So not very safe.
I don't think any of these petrol cookers are very safe, especially in the wrong hands.
Okay.
But yes, people have, I think, hurt themselves on them.
So going back to the conversation we had, you got this trailer first of all.
Well, yes, the trailer. I acquired the trailer when I sold a Land Rover.
Oh, okay.
And I had 2 trailers became this part of the deal.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like stored down the yard for a couple of years, and I've started acquiring a few other bits and pieces for it. And,
So sorry, this would supply how many troops? It looks quite fast.
Depending on what paperwork you look at, can have up to 250.
What?
But I think 150 is kind of more than enough.
Yeah.
But yes, get a good army chef in there and sorted it out. He'll cook up a load of slops for you. Quite tasty.
Okay. Yes, they would.
But it's hot and warm, that's what they need, troops.
And quick.
And quick, yeah. Yeah, once these get going with the gas bottles, they do cook quite quickly.
Yep.
Right, we've got number 2.
Yeah.
Cooker is a single petrol burner. Next to it to the right is number 3, and that's a twin burner, petrol burner. And the oven on top is a Mark III oven that's specifically for that burner.
So this is a hay box.
It's a hay box. Hay boxes have been around for years, but this is a military style one. So it's a metal box with insulation, in which you put a 6-gallon stainless steel can in it with cooked food, and you can actually finish the meal off, finish the cooking off while it's in there and being transported.
Oh. So that would be for the field, would it?
That would be for the field.
Yes.
You'd probably get kind of dozens of them, all filled up with food, and they'd be loaded on a truck and then taken out to the troops.
Well, I've learned something today.
Yeah.
Do you ever use any of them?
Well, not these really, because we
they're
don't
too
need
big.
to.
Yeah.
But as I say, last year we used the number 4 cooker, the trailer, to do our cooking on. It was outside, but it was quite good weather last year, so we could use it. Here, it's for display only, and we're using a number 5 gas burner inside the 12x1210. I think we're doing pasta tonight.
Nowhere to go if I get hungry then.
Yeah. we'll leave a bowl over for you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bread.
There you go. Oh, yeah. I was trying to keep the stinky water. We've been cleaning the garden. Ah.
Yeah, we are. You're famous, Stuart.
Yeah, ditto.
That one you can wrap round as well.
You're free on it again.
Well, you can't just stand there.
Day of our military Odyssey 2023. I hope everybody had a most enjoyable day. And,
How old is this gun?
80 years, I'll tell you exactly.
1941.
Take the brush off and we'll start oiling it.
1941.
Enjoy your time together, share your stories, and I look forward to seeing you again in the morning for the final day of our military Odyssey 2023. Have a good evening, everybody.
It's cheaper than the shirt.
Now there's a funny thing.
Get me in there.
I got you.
Up the barrel.
They're not totally filthy.
The residue from the powder after firing, all that's inside, and then the outside is the burnt carbon, and if it builds up these can't physically go in.
Oh, I see, it's got to be a good fit.
Yeah, very tight fit.
One more. Oil. Roger that.
Yeah, we've got oil there, have we?
Could do.
Ready? 2, 6, 2, 6, 2, 6, 2, 6. Lovely. Boiler up. Yeah, and we prepare to rest. I nearly dropped dead when my land rest. A cartload of wadding she began to unload. I sat there to view me maiden, only 19 years old. Oh, we lost the rag. And on her right hand, there were fingers but 3. Then out on the carpet her glass eye it rolled. I sat there and viewed me maiden, 19 years old. She popped her false teeth all down into a glass and left a gap as wide as the Khyber Pass. The sheep I were counting returned to the fold, in through the gap of my 19 years old. Come on then, quit your singing, we need some oil. Jam. I saw that her breast was all covered with hair. There's one thing that's certain, I'll never be cold. Oh, when I goes to bed with my 19 years old. Rotate. All you young fellas, ram, a warning take by me. You have that young damsel, you're bride for to be. Good.
Perfect. On to the next one. Good.
Yes, and he created this everything. And what D10 does, it's close to original. Very 99 from 100.
Yeah. I might go marshals down there and see if there's any marshals about. They're going to be in film.
Oh yeah. We're in the wrong camo. Wrong hat.
Yeah, so can you explain, is it a cannon?
Yeah. It's a banded cannon.
Banded cannon.
Just made bands of metal, the same way a cooper would make a barrel.
Oh.
That's why they call it the barrel of the cannon. Obviously, with the bands here would be like the horseshoe type things, where they hold all the bands together. Obviously, this is a reproduction, and we have to be safety, so there is actually a high pressure steel type inside it. It's originally a Swedish design of about 1500, more the Tudor period if you like, but obviously Swedish, not English. So it's a muzzle loader. Obviously feed the gunpowder in the front there, you ignite it in the back. His cannon goes on, but he...
So it's quite unusual then?
No, there's a few. There's a few around. You see quite a few around. If you like, that's a similar banded cannon, but doesn't show up the barrel in, if you like, as much.
Have you actually fired it today?
Yes, we did it at 10:30 this morning, so we did 5 shots out of it. So.
What made you get into Tudor artillery?
I mean, it was our neighbour who built this, so he was getting old, so we thought, well, we'll keep an eye on him, and it stuck with us really. He's gone, but yet we're still here with his cannon now. So.
Cannon still lives on?
Yeah, the cannon lives on, so he lives on in the cannon.
Oh, brilliant.
Wait for the sun to come out, yeah. Same pin in there, and the breech loading. So you plug the breeches in.
So each of these would be a barrel?
Barrel, yeah. And then you put the breech in there, pin it into place there, so that, and then you can set fire 3. Like we've done today, we actually left a trail of gunpowder across a lot of them, so you set fire to one, it sets them all off.
And what sort of period would this be?
Well, this is a Burgundian.
Burgundian
style. It's what the Duke of Burgundy had. To discourage the French. No, to discourage the French because they're different for attacking him. So he was successful in doing it. So yeah, so a little bit slightly earlier than that, but yeah, same sort of principle. Apart from its breech load, whereas the other one's muzzle loading.
Yeah. So Varangian Guard were basically guards of Byzantine Emperor, and it was collection of people from pretty much everywhere. So we've got someone who portray.
You think you're taking a video? Don't start that.
Because by word of mouth, they all the people there when they basically retired and had loads and loads of money. More word spread, and then there'd be more people willing to go sign up.
Yeah, people came from Norway, from Kievian Rus, from northern Poland, from pretty much everywhere where Viking existed. And that's why we have a mix of different weapons. So for example, this one is Baynax, which is typically from Scandinavia, and that one's a Byzantine axe, which was from Byzantine. So you can see it's like totally different shape and decorations and so on.
Are you from Baltic? Are you from the Baltic?
Yeah, Poland.
Oh, you're Poland, okay.
We are also mix. Some English, some Polish, Russian.
Pretty much.
Weapons we've got, they are like purposely blunted. So you see, this is normally it would be more spiky, so you could stab with it. This is purposely blunted, and also the edge. You see, it's purposely kind of rounded. Even so. Because we actually hit each other. Like we don't try to harm each other, but we don't like. No, it's not. Yeah.
Depends how excited you get.
Yes, sometimes some people try to actually harm others. That's true.
Bolin,
but yeah, so we actually kind of hit each other sometimes quite hard. That's why it has to be blunt, because otherwise,
otherwise you're going to be an ambulance. Quite like looking at Baynax.
And actually, this year it's been okay, but last year we had she was taken with ambulance off the field, rushed into hospital. Yeah, it was all okay in the end, but
So I can ask you, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the Dane axe or the sword?
I'm a swordsman. I mean, I love one-handed axe, but I mean, I love it from let's say. I would like to use it more, but I'm not skilled enough. Because axe takes more skill. Sword is easier. It's easier to learn. It's more effective. Because you think about an axe, it's only this bit that kills. Right? And with a sword, you've got all this that kills, and also the weight balance is. It's just much easier with a sword.
So the Dane axe. Can you show me how you'd hold that in a fight?
Yeah.
Please. So that's the Byzantine.
Yeah.
So you'll typically be, let's say, here. Or if you want to be kind of make it a terror weapon, scare it. You know, you go like that.
Seriously.
Or you could go fake. I'm going here, and then last moment, in the guts.
Sometimes you could do reverse grip. It was very good for taking out cavalry, because from here you can get someone on horseback and you're out of the reach of their weapon, either hit them or take the legs off the horse. And if someone gallop can still get up after they've come off a galloping horse and get up and fight, I mean, good luck to them. But the main, for the Varangian Guard, one of the main weapons they used was the Dane axe. But on most battlefields, the main weapon used was the spear. Just because they were easy to make. I mean, if you were that struggling in terms of cost, you could just have basically a pointed stick and it'd still do the trick.
But swords were bloody expensive.
Yeah, owning a sword then would be like owning a Ferrari or Lamborghini now, because the sheer amount that it cost to get the blacksmith to make it was quite a lot.
Because we portray early medieval around 9th, 10th century. So back then swords were, it's expensive, difficult to make.
Yeah, unless a professional army, as it were, and they've been supplied by their local lord, then yeah, most of the battles that would have happened, which would have been possibly like a few hundred people aside, there probably would have been barely a handful of swords on the battlefield, for the most part. And with the spear, gives you a lot of range.
Where the center of gravity for a sword is. Yeah, it's like completely different.
Yeah, the sword is.
So it's a preference what you like.
Yeah, it does actually it requires a fair bit of effort to go from. It takes a lot of practice to be able to go from one to the other. To say suddenly the weight is shifted all the way to the other end.
Axes are better for shields, won't they?
Yeah, they're.
Go on, hook me.
They've got the ability.
Yeah, so for example, if let's say we are working in pairs, right? So he's got a sword or a spear or whatever. With an axe, I've got a shield here as well, and I can.
Oh yes.
Down, right, because of this bit, you can't do that with a sword. I mean, you could try with a pommel, but it's.
You get close then.
I mean, from that point,
and from here I can.
I'm happy to be a little closer than I'd want.
So you can do probably more with an axe, but you have to really train for it.
Now you're in trouble. He's got his sword.
With sword, it's just
the only thing
quicker to train.
The only thing you'd get with an axe is obviously they're not as durable, because obviously if these were sharp and he goes to block, I'm going to be taking chunks out of the haft of the axe.
Even with blunt weapons, you can see that it's.
We take. So if they look after their sword doing this, they should basically almost last you a lifetime. They should last years and years and years.
Whereas
Axes, they would inevitably look to be replaced. You can still obviously save the axe head, but you'll end up replacing the shaft quite a.
Yeah, like this is after about maybe 8 trainings and 2 fights. As you can see, it's already.
I can't resist putting this on, being in front of the camera.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, if you was going to be going back in time, in any century, and serving any Viking master, who would it be?
Oh wow, I don't think I have enough knowledge of history to pick one. Yeah, okay, good enough.
Who would that be?
Harald Bluetooth.
Oh, Bluetooth? Didn't he go off to Iceland?
Yeah.
I think he was a troublemaker, wasn't he?
Well, most of them were.
Well, with this massive wasn't at that shot, I was there. It's just such a skim.
Getting my little horse.
That's what it reminds me of, going to an agricultural fair. I used to be able to do that, but that one would end up like breaking blood vessels. Because the very when I was your age, I mean, the last few years,
Johnny's getting quite good at it. That's like boxing me, like.
So, I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit longer than I normally would cover, but it's such a big event, so I thought I'd do my best to capture a small amount of what's here. I think you need more than a day, to be honest, to really get into it. But I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much.